Hello and welcome to Expats Everywhere. If you could tell us your name, where you're from, and a little about yourself.
Hi, my name is Charlie Robinson. I'm originally from the UK, southeast, town called Brighton. I teach mathematics, and I currently work in a school in Budapest, in Hungary.
What countries have you worked in around the world?
Whew, not as many as some people. When you start to live abroad, you get to meet a lot of people and realize that I've barely touched the surface when it comes to what the world has to offer. But I've done one or two. I worked, my first job abroad was in the Netherlands. That was before I was a teacher. And since then I've worked in India, in South Korea, and now in Hungary.
Brilliant. Well, tell us, what is it like working in Hungary?
Hungary has been a superb experience for me personally. We moved here from Asia, where we were working before. Culturally, it's a fascinating city. Budapest, particularly, is oozing history. The city itself is stunning. The architecture is out of this world in places. Beyond that, I found the people very friendly. I think that learning a little bit of the language really helped with that in terms of just getting people to open up a bit. The food's decent. It's very, very affordable. So it's been a really positive experience living in Budapest itself.
Great. Well, just to give our viewers an idea, you are finishing your 6th year there, is that correct?
Yeah, which is the longest stint I've done overseas, actually, in a single place.
Okay.
Testimony, I think, to the fact that we're so happy here.
Absolutely. Could you tell us what kinds of jobs are available for English-speaking expats in Budapest?
That's a good question, actually, and a lot. And I teach the children of expats that work here, and their parents have a massive spectrum of jobs. There are everything from people working for, I don't know, Samsung, Coca-Cola, your sort of everyday corporate jobs. There are people working for the US military. There are people working for the Foreign Office. There are obviously the diplomats. There are a lot of call centers that have outsourced themselves out into Hungary, presumably because it's cheaper. So I've met quite a few people floating around Budapest that work in those kind of jobs. There's a whole plethora of employment for English-speaking expats.
Are most of the expats from Europe or from all over the world?
No, genuinely all over the world. I mean, again, if you look at just the dynamics of our school, we have Chinese, Koreans, South Americans, people from all over Europe. It's an American school, so a lot of Americans, Canadians, Australians. Yeah, there are people from all over. And the same applies particularly in expats that I've met in the city. I mean, I've got a friend that manages one of the departments in a call center for, I think, IBM. And he said, I think they have 37 different nationalities working in that call center.
Wow.
That's insane, isn't it?
Love to hear that, though. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, what does a typical day look like for you at your job?
It's not too different, honestly, to teaching anywhere. I come in, I have, I'm in at probably about 7:30 in the morning. I leave. It depends if I have like an after-school club that I run, it'll be later. But generally, I'll finish maybe 4:30, 5 o'clock. It's an unbelievable facility they have. I mean, these places are obviously very well funded. So from that perspective, it's a fantastic place to work. It's a relatively sought after destination. The quality of the staff here is probably the best school I've ever worked in. So from that perspective, from a professional perspective, it's been a really positive move for me.
Great. Well, you mentioned funding. So how much can you expect to earn there?
So you're talking in terms of my salary?
Yeah.
You would start in this school, I think it's about $45,000 is the starting one. I don't know what it goes up to totally. I mean, if you're in management positions, I would think considerably more. I haven't looked at the scale totally. Yeah, I'm not going to lie. I mean, it was one of my motivations for moving abroad again.
Okay.
Scraping pennies together on a teacher's salary in the southeast of England wasn't fun at times. I would say I earn considerably more than that. I'm living in a country that is considerably cheaper. I get all sorts of benefits, including they pay for my housing. They pay for flights home every year. I have comprehensive medical insurance that's worldwide. It's tax-free, my salary as well, which is the case. Actually, in a lot of European countries, that isn't the case. So, I wouldn't want to mislead people that are thinking in terms of, particularly as you move further west in Europe. But as you know yourself from living in Asia, that's often the case in Asia as well, is tax-free. I live a quality of life that would be unthinkable as a school teacher in the UK. And I put away a fair bit as well, which again, I wasn't saving anything in the UK. I mean, I have a lot of fun here, so I don't save as much as I could have done. But if you wanted to, yeah, you could put away half of that a year easily. And if you're a teaching couple, I mean, you could be saving an absolute packet. Yeah.
What kind of lifestyle can you live on $45,000 a year?
So, I mean, again, taking into that's literally just spending money because everything else is paid for. Yeah, in Budapest, yeah, you can live a really, really good life. You can do pretty much anything you want. I have 3 or 4 holidays a year. I mean, my big hobby is going to watch music, and I'm going to watch pretty much anything and everything that I want. Whereas in the UK, I would have to really pick and choose. It's there's so many opportunities in terms of countries that are very close by as well for weekends away. In terms of lifestyle, there's not much that I can't do that I would want to. I'm not flying away to the Bahamas for 5-star hotels every 6 months. But I'm doing everything that I want to, for sure.
Brilliant. How much money should someone save to start up there?
I didn't save anything to start up in terms of being a teacher because they cover everything. In fact, when I first moved to my first international job, we were literally eating hand to mouth in that school in the UK, supporting a family on that salary. And I remember them saying, "Well, look, just book your flights and we'll pay you back." And I said, "Look, I don't have $4,000 to drop on flights to South Korea." So they were like, "Oh, okay, no problem at all." Paid all my flights for me. I went out there with nothing. And already in that first year, sorry, I mean, it's a different country I'm talking about now, but in that first year, had already put away a sizable amount and gone on an amazing summer holiday and was starting off on my second year again. So to be perfectly frank, if you're talking about teaching alone, you don't really need to save anything to come away because they cover everything.
Awesome. Well, speaking about Budapest and Hungary in general, how should someone pack to move there, and what's the weather like?
It's very hot today.
Is it?
Well, for me, anyway, I've got kind of Scottish blood. So we are mid-June now, and the weather it's only 25, but it was in the 30s yesterday, and it feels pretty hot today as well. It has 4 seasons. It truly has 4 seasons. I mean, not in the same way Siberia does, but the winter's cold here. There's a lot of snow, and then spring and autumn are absolutely gorgeous. Summer's pretty hot, but it's not that kind of oppressive, humid heat that you get in Singapore or we had in Korea. It's copable, but certainly you can get well into the 30s.
Are there any things that you recommend people bring that they can't find in Hungary?
It's changed massively in 6 years. There's not a lot that you can't find in terms of hardware. Immediately, the first thing I'm thinking is I'm going camping in the summer, and sorting out all my camping equipment with quality camping equipment was not difficult at all. Food, yeah, certainly. If there's some like real, love that you have in terms of a local food, you wanted to bring some over with you, but the big stores have all sorts of import stuff as well. There's a spread that I use on toast called Marmite, which I recently found for the first time in the last 2 years here, and that would have been unthinkable 6 years ago. So it's opening up. There's a lot more, I think expats that are moving here, and they're realizing that there is a market for those kind of products. So frankly, not a lot.
Okay.
There's not much that you would really need to bring that you couldn't get.
Well, let's switch gears and let's talk about safety. How safe is it there, and do you feel safe on a personal level?
Uh, Absolutely, yes. And it's interesting because when I first came here, I bought the Eastern European, like Lonely Planet. I remember the first chapter, it might have been Rough Guide, whatever, one of the two. And the first chapter for Budapest, it said something along the lines of, you need to be a bit careful in Budapest. And I'm like, are you kidding? This is like one of the safest cities I've ever lived in. I mean, you look at like Rome or Milan or parts of London or Paris, like you would literally have to really want to go out of your way to get into problems here, to have difficulties in Budapest. Yeah, you're more likely to have problems with a visiting like group on a bachelor party that are here from the UK than you are ever with a local. They are seriously friendly. I was going to use the word passive, but that doesn't seem terribly positive. But just just really kind people. You drive around and you come to a junction and people just let you in. When I go back to the UK, I have to readjust my driving again, so that to be a bit more aggressive because you can't get anywhere otherwise. Let alone in sort of Italy or Turkey. It's an incredibly safe city. I've been all over the place as well, and there's not a single moment. Even at 3 o'clock in the morning, tumbling back from some music event somewhere, there's never been a moment where I've remotely been looking over my shoulder or felt like I need to be more vigilant. Well, I keep hearing these rumors about like occasionally you'll have pickpocketers on the metro, but I've never actually even met somebody that's been pickpocketed. I just heard that it happens. So yeah, from a safety perspective, yeah, it's pretty safe.
Okay. Well, you mentioned that the people are friendly. How do you meet people, and what can you do for fun?
Well, it does. I mean, it helps that I have like my hobbies. I love going to watch music, and music people are generally pretty friendly. And being a foreigner, immediately, I guess people are more interested. Oh, wow, you're from the UK. Like, what are you doing here? Well, actually, I live here now. So it's been very easy to make friends through that. I go and watch a local soccer team as well. So I've made quite a few friends through going to watch that. I've got other like colleagues here that do various activities like crazy lunatic running, like these ultra marathon type things. He's met people through that. There's a lot of people doing CrossFit. They're willing to get out there and take part in things, and I don't think it's hard to meet people. But to be honest, there's a thriving expat community as well. I mean, I know people in my workplace that don't know a single Hungarian, and they've made a very nice life for themselves within that expat bubble that there is, which is I think pretty diverse in itself.
Sweet. What's the visa process like?
I'm the wrong person to ask on that front because for the moment at least, I am an EU citizen.
Okay.
We'll see how Brexit turns out. I know that for my American colleagues here, every year they need to renew their visa. From our perspective in our workplace, we have all these people that do all that help for us. Oh God, I don't know how we would survive without them. They do everything from like sorting out issues with our cars, all the various bit of paperwork there is. Because I mean, Hungarian bureaucracy is pretty insane. I mean, I think it's a throwback to to the old communist times where everybody had to have a job, and so even if your job was stamping a bit of paper and then passing the bit of paper to someone else, there is so much paper. I don't know what they do with it all. And if anybody was going to move here, that would be a pretty reasonable question to ask your employer. What kind of support do they have in terms of the actual nitty gritty of sorting all this stuff out? Because I bought an apartment here, and even the various different things that I had to do personally with that, were comical at times. With a little bit of Hungarian, a little bit of English, and lots of smiling and a bit of body language. But I think it would be frustrating if I had to do everything.
Right.
So that would be a very pertinent question to ask any future employee, like how much support am I going to have with paperwork? Because it's a nightmare here.
Okay. How's the healthcare, and would you feel comfortable getting a procedure done there?
I think it would depend on the procedure. Personally speaking, my experience with the healthcare here has been first class, but I have spoken to others that, particularly in terms of the expat facilities, have been left not totally satisfied with it. Doctors are leaving Hungary hand over fist because they can make more money in Austria. So any doctor with any get up and go who can already speak English, is probably at least thinking about moving to the UK or Germany or another European country. Vienna is on our doorstep. So, for example, my colleague a few months ago had a very bad ski accident, cruciate ligaments, which you'll remember, like when we were kids, that was a career ender if you were a footballer. And now, it's a procedure that you can have done. And she went to Vienna for that.
Okay.
And hand on heart, probably I would as well.
Okay.
But your basic stuff is pretty easy to do.
Do you think that Budapest and Hungary is a good travel hub? Why or why not?
Yes, it's Central Europe. I'm sure you're familiar with some of these low-cost airlines. Like Wizz Air are Hungarian, so they fly absolutely everywhere for pennies. You can go anywhere from Dubai to St. Petersburg to Madrid to Paris for pennies. It's madness. I think I went to Malta 3 months ago for €40 return. I mean, something crazy. Driving as well. I'm doing a road trip in the summer, which is going to take me through Slovenia, which is gorgeous, unbelievably beautiful Slovenia, Austria, Germany, bit of Italy. 12-day road trip that, again, coming from the UK, which is obviously an island, or the US, where you have to drive hours just to get anywhere. You drive a couple of hours and you're in a different country. So yes, as a travel hub, it is absolutely insane. I'd rate it up there with Singapore, where you are in terms of a travel hub.
Okay, nice. Well, let's wrap up here. What are the pros and cons of living in Budapest, Hungary?
The pros, I would say, are it's a very, very affordable country. Culturally, it's fascinating. Artistically, it's been really interesting for me. Things like I've been going to watch a lot of opera and ballet, which is really fascinating. Things like this are really strong in particularly a lot of these ex sort of communist countries, and really affordable. You can't, even if you could afford the £200 ticket for an opera ticket in the UK, unless you're part of that sort of old boys network, you can't get tickets anyway. Whereas here, it's really open to anyone, which is, I don't know, quite a progressive culture, really. So things like that are real pros. It's a really, really valuable cultural experience. There are always going to be cons. There are times where you go to the supermarket and you can't find honey, and the shop assistant directs you to where the dishwasher powder is or something. But honestly, if that's the biggest problem that I have in a day, I don't know, life's pretty good, really. I think there's always going to be people that struggle living abroad. That's okay. It's okay to move home and be happy where you are. But if you enjoy traveling and you enjoy living overseas, then I would absolutely guarantee that Budapest is a phenomenal city to be living in.
Charlie, thank you so much for sharing with Expats Everywhere.
It's been a pleasure. It's great to talk again as well, Josh.